Hello, and thank you for tuning into the Veterans Aide. In today's video, we will be discussing the supplemental claim, which is one of the decision review options available to you. The primary focus of this video is an explanation of what the form is and how to submit it. Here is an overview of the topics that we will cover today. What is a supplemental claim? Supplemental claims are decision review requests. If you disagree with the VA's decision on your claim, you can file a supplemental claim to add new and relevant evidence to your case or identify new evidence for a new review. You can also use it to have the VA review a prior claim for a newly presumptive condition, such as a previous denial that is now presumptive due to the PACT Act. If a decision is final, which means you let the 1-year appeal window lapse without filing a decision review, then a supplemental claim prompts the VA to reopen the case. But remember, you still need new and relevant evidence. When is a supplemental claim used? When you disagree with a decision issued by the VA, a supplemental claim is used to signal that you disagree with it and that you are providing new and relevant evidence in support of your disagreement. This includes decisions from initial claims, claims for increase, higher level reviews, and the Board of Veterans Appeals. How do you file a supplemental claim? There are several ways to submit a supplemental claim into the VA. First, you can file it directly on VA.gov. You can upload a completed VA Form 20-0995 via QuickSubmit. You can mail in the completed form. You can bring the completed form into a VA regional office. But please take note that this is only for claims that are not related to healthcare benefits, that you can bring it in person. Lastly, your representative can submit it. And just to be clear, by representative, I mean a VSO representative or an accredited attorney or accredited claims agent. I will list the specific websites and mailing addresses later in this video. How is a supplemental claim helpful? Supplemental claims have a few benefits. First, they are the primary mechanism to reopen a previously closed claim. As mentioned before, if your claim exceeds the 1-year appeal window without an appeal, it is considered closed. A supplemental claim reopens it and allows the VA to reconsider your condition, if you have new and relevant evidence, of course. In cases where your claim is still within the 1-year appeal window, a supplemental claim can also potentially preserve an earlier effective date, which may increase your retroactive pay, aka back pay, and increase your time towards protective status. When can you file a supplemental claim? Okay, so that was kind of a trick question. A supplemental claim can be submitted at any time after you receive a decision. It does not matter what kind of decision either. You want to do it after an initial claim decision? You can. After an HLR? Yes. After a Board of Veterans Appeals decision? Yes. But what about after a supplemental claim? Yep. You can submit a supplemental claim in response to a decision issued for a supplemental claim. But remember, as always, You must have new and relevant evidence. When does a supplemental claim not apply? Supplemental claims may not be used to file an initial claim. Likewise, they may not be used for claims for increase. Just so there's no confusion, if you disagree with a decision and are appealing it, you can file a supplemental claim. However, if your condition got worse, a supplemental claim may not be the correct form for your situation. I know I keep harping on new and relevant evidence, so let me take a moment to explain exactly what that is. New evidence is just that, evidence not previously submitted to the VA. That is simple enough. Relevant evidence, however, is a bit more nuanced. That is evidence that tends to prove or disprove a matter at issue in the claim. Some examples of this could be doctor's notes, so long as they relate to information not previously known by the VA. It could be imaging, such as new MRI or X-ray results. Or it could be a lay statement, aka a buddy statement. If you, for example, had a fellow service member that witnessed the accident that caused your back problem. Unless your supplemental claim is based on a change in law, you will need to submit supporting evidence that is new and relevant with your application in order for it to be complete. If you do not, your claim will be denied. Here are the URLs for QuickSubmit for submitting a supplemental claim on VA.gov and for the form itself so you can fill it out on your own. As promised, here are all the mailing addresses for all the locations you may need to send a supplemental claim to. You may want to pause the video to give yourself enough time to jot down the information you need or screenshot it. The supplemental claim is something you will likely need at some point during your VA disability journey. It is important to understand what it is, when you can use it, when you cannot use it, and how to use it. Now, similar to what I did with the 21-526EZ form, I will now do a walkthrough of the VA form 20-0995 so you can see it in real time and understand what to expect when it comes time for you to complete one on your own. The primary focus of this portion of the video is to do a walkthrough of completing the VA form 20-0995. As shown in the mailing address section, there are many reasons you may need this form. This form covers several benefit types: compensation, pension, DIC and survivor benefits, fiduciary, education, loan guarantee, life insurance, veterans readiness and employment, National Cemetery Administration, and Veterans Health Administration. Note that if you are applying for a VHA benefit, you have to specify which particular benefit you are looking for, such as travel reimbursement or clothing allowances. You may only use one benefit type at a time, so if you have more than one type, you need to get a supplemental claim form for each type. For the purpose of this video, we're going with compensation. In Section 1, it covers the basic information of the veteran: first name, middle initial, last name, social security number, date of birth, and mailing address. Your phone number and email address are optional, but I would recommend putting it here anyway. In Section 1, it covers the basic information of the veteran: first name, middle initial, last name, social security number, date of birth, and mailing address. Your phone number and email address are optional, but I would recommend putting it here anyway. Section 2 is for the identifying information of the claimant. If the veteran is the claimant, then you can go ahead and leave the section blank and move on to section 3. However, in this case, the veteran's wife is the one completing the form, so she has to enter her information here. Much like the section for the veteran, it requires the full name of the claimant, their social security number, date of birth, relationship to the veteran, and the mailing address. Like before, telephone number and email address are still optional, but I would still recommend entering it. Section 3 applies if you are homeless. If so, check yes and follow along with the form. If no, check no and skip on to section 4. Section 3 applies if you are homeless. If so, check yes and follow along with the form. If no, check no and skip on to section 4. Section 4 is the meat and potatoes of the form, the issues for the supplemental claim. Here is where you give the reasons why you are following the claim. When completing this section, you want to let the VA know what it is you're disagreeing with and, if you have room to explain, why. You must also put the date of the VA decision notice. That will be the date of your decision notification letter, not the rating decision itself. Before I begin going over the specific issues I have used in this example, I want to state that you do not need to make your argument on this form. I know space is limited and you want to get your point across the best you can, but I recommend also submitting your arguments on a 21-4138 statement in support of claim form. Okay, that said, let us go over the specific issues. First, there's a disagreement with the denials of chronic allergic rhinitis and lumbar degenerative disc disease. There is a disagreement with the evaluation or rating of IBS due to the severity not matching the rating given. Likewise, chronic sinusitis was not rated in accordance with the 38 CFR Part 4. This is where a personal statement could come in handy. You can clearly explain that you have documented symptoms which should equate to an X rating. There are 2 effective date issues. One because the intent to file was not used to give an earlier effective date, and the other because the diagnosed condition had been continuously pursued, which means at no time did the 1-year appeal window close without another appeal being submitted. That last one, I threw in as kind of a bonus. In cases like that, a statement in support of claim would be considered new and relevant evidence since it is raising a new theory of service connection. So, in this case, the veteran was denied on a direct basis, but the examiner/rater did not consider whether the condition was caused by another service-connected condition. Section 5 is where you identify your new and relevant evidence. You should specify where you received treatment. Note that the VA already has access to records from VA medical centers, CBOCs, and military treatment facilities. If you have private medical records, to include community care, I would recommend that you go to get those records for yourself, then upload them to the VA. You can use the QuickSubmit link earlier in the video. If you need more room for additional facilities, attach another page. And be sure to include your name, social security number, and which block, so block 22, Bravo in this case. If you have private medical records, to include community care, I would recommend that you go to get those records for yourself, then upload them to the VA. You can use the QuickSubmit link earlier in the video. If you need more room for additional facilities, attach another page and which block, so block 22, Bravo in this case. And that wraps up Section 5. Section 5 is where you identify your new and relevant evidence. You should specify where you received treatment. Note that the VA already has access to records from VA medical centers, CBOCs, and military treatment facilities. If you have private medical records, to include community care, I would recommend that you go to get those records for yourself, then upload them to the VA. You can use the QuickSubmit link earlier in the video. If you need more room for additional facilities, attach another page. And be sure to include your name, social security number, and which block. So block 22 Bravo in this case. And that wraps up Section 5. Section 6 is the 5103 Notice of Acknowledgement, also known as the Section 5103 Notice, which applies to compensation, pension, DIC, and accrued benefit claims only. Go to the URL listed on the form, read through the information, and check yes. If you check no, it could potentially delay your claim as the VA will need to send you the notice by mail. Then, read through Section 7. Your options are either to consent, to not consent, to revoke consent that you previously gave, or if it's not applicable, you would check not applicable. Section 8 is the veteran's signature, or in our case, it would be the claimant, which is his wife. Either way, the responsible person will sign it and date it, and then you're done. For Section 9, which is for witnesses, those signatures are only required when the veteran signs with an X in lieu of their handwritten signature. Section 10 is for an alternate signature. This requires no veteran signature in Section 8 and a valid VA Form 21-0972, which must either be of record already or attached to / submitted with this form. Section 11 is for power of attorney signature, and that wraps up the form. The power of attorney signature is only acceptable if a VA Form 21-22 or 21-22 Alpha is of record with the VA at the time of the submission of the 20-0995. And there you have it. That wraps up completing the 20-0995. Thank you for taking time out of your day and making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, drop a comment with questions, or just to say hi. Share it with someone who may need to see it, and subscribe for future videos. Thanks again, and until next time, this has been the Veteran's Aide.